This is a teaser of this week's Gaslit Nation early show, available for subscribers at the Truth Teller level and higher on Patreon. This week's episode is called, Has Putin Lost His Mind?
Putin has been in power since New Year's Eve 1999. So that's 22 years. And this always happens. If you look at any dictatorship in the world, the longer that they remain in power, the more insular their circle becomes, the more paranoid the dictator becomes, and the more divorced from geopolitical reality they become, even if they do possess geopolitical acumen, which Putin does. He's a strategist, but he's a strategist who has been in this bubble, who has purged his rivals, who has packed his courts with sycophants and lackeys and packed his advisory committees with people like that, which we saw in the video today. And when that happens, that's a dangerous situation, both for the world that is at the mercy of this dictator, but as Andrea is saying, for the dictator themselves, because, they could do anything and they could face enormous potential blowback from their country. The reason that they often don't is, of course, because after decades of brutal authoritarian rule, a country is conditioned to not fight back because they know the consequences. The police or militia or, local authorities are conditioned to never challenge higher authorities because they know the consequences. And, and that system is in place. Like, Andrea brought up someone who had left Russia in 2012. Since then, the attack on free media, the attack on, internet communication, the jailing of bloggers or online writers, like people, the protests that have been suppressed, people in Russia have been conditioned to a large degree to not fight back for their own personal safety and survival. And that's not, of course, unique to Russia. That happens in every dictatorship. If this turns into the biggest war on European soil since World War II, I don't know what the situation will be in Russia, especially if, because Putin seems to be beyond just evil and conniving, but kind of going into madman territory.
The big takeaway of this Kremlin clown car security meeting is that Putin's team of hawkish, hockety-hawk hawks looked terrified of the strong man, which indicates that Putin might be out of his mind, determined to do this. Putin has a tendency, as we keep saying on this show, of pushing deals way too far, of playing a zero-sum game, of zero compromise. He's like the most stubborn individual you've ever encountered. And so the fear is that he cannot be contained, even by his own team. Again, people looked scared. Putin's hawks looked scared of him. They looked scared of what's to come. They looked like they were prisoners, hostages themselves of this crazy little man. And the signs of that were most chilling. I was talking to a Russian friend who escaped Russia in 2012 when Putin was escalating his crackdown against the Russian people. And this is a Russian activist who works closely with Navalny's group. And one thing he said to me was that there's a 90% chance that Putin won't invade, but there's a 10% chance that he will invade because he's crazy. And we always have to factor that in. But if he were to invade, it would be self-destruction. It would be destruction to his regime. The house of cards would tumble. It's not just the sanctions. It's the Russian army is a lot of smoke and mirrors. They have some really strong hubs of military force, but a lot of it is undisciplined. These guys are not taken care of by the state. Look at how they're being treated by Putin, right? They have moms and wives and other family members and friends back home. And one of the ways to break through dictator propaganda are witnesses. Witnesses have a long history of spreading the truth and outraging people and shining a light through the darkness of dictatorship propaganda.